Hey guys, Deathbyphiw here. Welcome back to my channel. I know it's a few days after the patch notes came out, but I'm gonna go over the Overwatch 2 retail patch notes that came out on February 21st because I wanted to give it a few days to see how this affected the meta, to see how these characters were affected by these changes, if buffs and nerfs were better for them or not. So, stick around. Starting off at the top, D.Va, she got a little bit of a nerf here, in my personal opinion. It was just way too easy, especially with dive being the hard meta right now. It was just way too easy for D.Va just to effectively do a ton of damage and also be really have high survivability. Her base projectile size was decreased slightly from 0.25 to 0.2 meters. So now the total projectile size is 0.3 meters. This just means it's a little bit harder for her to hit her shots on her light gun. And that's really all that it was. I think it's a super minor nerf, and it doesn't really do much to her. I still think D.Va is a very strong tank in the current meta, and with dive being meta, she's still, in my opinion, like a high A tier tank. Moving on to Roadhog, I know other streamers have talked about this. I love Flats. I watch almost all of his content. I've been following him for a very long time. I do not think Hog was giga buffed. This is a very slight change, 40 to 50% damage reduction when he's taking a breather. I mean, he's still a huge target. He's still very easy to hit as a tank hero. And Hog just really doesn't offer much to your team in the current meta. I mean, Ball, Winston, D.Va, Sig, Ram are all just way better options. And with the buffs to Zarya in this patch, which I will get to in a second, it makes him fall even further down the ladder, in my personal opinion. Like, this doesn't make him much better. Like, I put him as a D tier tank. I was questionable as him being F tier in my last tank hero comparisons, my tier list, which I'll tag in this video. I still think Hog is D. Maybe he's a C tier tank now. This is not a huge giga buff. This is a slight buff, in my personal opinion. I think either the meta needs a shift to different tanks, or Hog's just gonna suffer with the projectile size changes and with Zen just being so strong. Moving on down to Zarya. So Zarya did, in a way, get a huge buff. I wouldn't say she was quote unquote giga buff, but this was a pretty big increase to her damage. I know they're trying to like reduce the amount of damage in the game, or at least that's what the talks were about. This just ups it tremendously, in my personal opinion. I think Zarya, who I marked as a C tier tank in my tank tier list, she's moved up maybe into B tier, high B, low A tier, in my personal opinion. She's much stronger now. Her particle cannon primary fire minimum damage increased from 85 to 95 damage per second, and her primary fire maximum damage got increased from 170 to 190 damage per second. That is very strong. So if she's max charge, she now does 190 damage per second. She could essentially delete most of the heroes in the game who have 250 HP or less in a second and a half, maybe less, if she's full charge and targets someone. I mean, that's really strong. That's really strong, in my personal opinion. She moves up quite a few tiers. I think she's a high B, low A tier tank right now. But we'll see how it continues to play out. But doesn't make her broken per se, but makes her really good. Makes her pretty much a pick that you can go and feel strongly about on tank. Now, this was questionable to me. I at first thought Hanzo, in this meta, with the projectile size changes, was going to be shooting logs from across the map, but Hanzo has kind of been struggling because the whole meta on DPS has been dive. Like, you're talking about Sombra, Genji, Tracer, those type of get in your face and high survivability DPS, you know, dash in, recall, or throw your translocator away to get out of a fight. You know, those kind of dive DPS are really strong. So I don't think Hanzo is as broken as what we thought he was going to be. And now he's getting a nerf on his projectile size. It's got reduced from 0.1 to 0.075 meters. So the total projectile size is now 0.175 meters. I honestly don't think Hanzo needed the nerf. The HP buffs made it kind of harder for Hanzo to get, you know, his one shot more frequently. But he's still not that strong. I don't think he's terrible. I just think he's like kind of middle of the pack, average DPS at the moment, maybe slightly below average, but not great. So I really don't know why he got this nerf, but I get people are complaining that Hanzo shoots these arrows from across the map and gets these headshots that may kill you or not now, but maybe that's why he's getting nerfed. I'm gonna start off with Junkrat here and say, I mean, I don't like Junkrat. I think most sane Overwatch players really do not like Junkrat either. Before the HP buff increase, Junkrat used to have a one shot. He wasn't even that high up in the tier list of DPS, even before the HP buff. And I think he fell even further down that tier list with the HP buff across the board because now he no longer has a one shot. So here they're trying to compensate a little bit. I don't think it really makes Junkrat too much better. Maybe he's a little bit more viable of a pick, but once again, he can't really one shot anyone besides like Baby D.Va, Tracer, Widowmaker, and I think Lifeweaver. A 250 HP target is still left with, I think, 10 HP with his one-shot combo that he used to have. So this is just a little bit of a, well, it's pretty significant buff to Junkrat, but it's a little bit to compensate for the HP buffs because I think Junkrat just really fell down the tier list in this meta. So I don't like Junkrat. It's good for Junkrat, but you know, it is what it is. Now, Soldier 76 is one of my mains. I'm a hit scan main, and I love Soldier 76. But really, the projectile size changes made Soldier 76 a very strong pick, and I still think he is a strong pick with these changes. I haven't seen too much of a drop off. I mean, if you're a good aimer, you know, you're a GM player or High Masters player like myself on DPS, you know, you pretty much have good aim, and the projectile size changes just made it even better. I had some of my best games in the first couple of days of the new release, and I thought Soldier 76 was like an A+, low S tier DPS, probably more so towards the A tier DPS, and I think this solidifies him as like just an A tier DPS. I don't think he's gonna fall off. I don't think this breaks him. The projectile size being decreased in this patch to now 0.05 meters is the total projectile size. It's not going to kill him. If you have good aim, you'll be doing well with him, and this meta kind of does well with him anyway, so doesn't hurt him too much. Keeps him A tier in my opinion, but he's not really like A+ anymore. Maybe A-. Now, Tracer, on the other hand, is absolutely broken at the moment because of the meta. She's a S+ DPS, so they're decreasing her minimum fall off range, they're reducing it from 12 to 10 to make it just feel a little less more powerful in that poke in the range with her. Nothing too crazy. I think the meta still stays with her, and she's still an S+ DPS. Widowmaker, on the other hand, got a bit of a nerf here with projectile size. Some people were just picking up Widowmaker who never really played her and be looking like, I don't know, all-stars. Overwatch contender players or Overwatch pro players with aim because her projectile size was just absolutely insane. So this was needed. They're reducing her projectile size to 0.05 meters now, and her scope shot fall off minimum max range increased from 40 to 60 to 50 to 70 meters. The meta supports Widowmaker in a way, right? Like I said, the hit scan DPS like Soldier 76 and even Widowmaker are A tier DPS, and the S+ is mostly like dive DPS in my opinion. This keeps her in the A tier, doesn't kill her. The meta is in her favor, and I still feel like Widowmaker is a pretty strong pick in most situations. It really does depend on the map, right? There's some maps Widowmaker doesn't work well on. Just don't play her on those maps. But she's still a very strong pick. Now, Illari, I had her down at the bottom of the barrel of the support tier list. I don't know how I feel about this change. The Illaris that I have seen in games still aren't excelling. The reason I say that is the health pool increases essentially makes it necessary to be able to either one, dish out more heals, or be able to also dish out damage. Like Zen is a high DPS, low healing support, but his DPS is just so high, and his ability to change the team fight makes him good. His Discord ability is just so strong. Lucio is another one who's kind of have balanced heals, not too crazy, but could also do a ton of damage and offer a lot of utility to the team. Illari, on the other hand, she has literally no utility for her team. She's like Moira, but worse off in this meta because her pylon, even though this cooldown is decreased from 8 to 6, still very easy to destroy. And her right click healing is not good, and it doesn't heal enough in my personal opinion with these heal pool increases, so I still don't see her being too good. I don't think she's an F tier support, but I do think she moves up a little bit. Maybe she's low C, high D tier. Her buffs to her captive son are good, but it's again another very easy counterable. And then her ability on damage is just taken away because of the HP increase across the board. She can't two-shot anyone anymore. So why would you play Illari? I mean, I'd rather play Lucio, Bap, Zen, Ana, Kiri way over Illari in my personal opinion. Now Lucio got a little bit of a nerf here. His base projectile size reduced from 0.15 to 0.1 meters. His total projectile size now 0.25. I still think Lucio is an S tier support. This doesn't really hurt him too much. The Lucios I've seen in game are still excelling and doing well, and in my personal opinion, he's still meta. So, not too much of a nerf here. Mercy mains, I feel sorry for you because Mercy, in my opinion, is very bad. She's not terrible. She's not good. She's slightly above, she's quite a bit below average, and she's like a C tier support at the moment with the meta. And now, because she was terrorizing the low ranks of Overwatch, her projectile size got decreased because it was quite frankly huge. If you took it to the practice range and checked it out, it was very huge. It was just massive. So they reduced her projectile size from 0.25 to 0.2 meters, and her total projectile size is now 0.3 meters. So wouldn't say this is a huge nerf, but it doesn't help her situation. I still think she's like a C tier support. You know, if you pair her up with a good Sojourn or a good hit scan player, yeah, you could still win games and provide a lot of value to your team. But the DPS passive really did hurt her chances. I mean, to be in the meta at all. The 20% reduced healing, it really makes you be able to pick a fight with a pocketed hero. So Mercy isn't so good value-wise because her healing is not that great, and her value comes from Blue Beam. But if you do need to heal your pocketed DPS, I mean, she's just not going to offer much in that situation. Like, you could just take her out rather quickly. Not a horrible pick, but not a great pick. I mean, you play her and you play well with her, and by all means, pick her. Zenyatta, the biggest topic of the discussion. I don't think this really hurt Zen too much. I think the biggest problem with Zen is his Discord orb. In the meta right now, it just purely supports his Discord and his damage, and his base health being decreased from 100 to 75. I mean, he now has 250 overall HP instead of 275, so be a little bit more careful with Zen and not as ballsy where you try to play a little bit out of position and get more damage. Like, you gotta pay a little bit more attention to that. It's not much of a nerf. Hurts him a little bit, but I still think he's a high S tier, probably the best support right now in the current meta in the game. And then his melee, his knockback was decreased by 25%. I mean, what does that really affect? Who's playing Rhine anyway? Who's playing rush tanks anyway? I mean, he's playing against dive tanks. Tanks like Winston and Diva and Ball, like, weren't really getting affected much by his kick, his knockback. Tanks like maybe Rhine, Sig, Ram, Orisa, Zarya, tanks that weren't played too much or aren't played too much in the current meta, were a little bit affected by this, but not much of a difference. Not the changes that I would have thought I would have seen, but all in all, I think this was a pretty good patch. The fact that they released a hotfix patch so quickly, I think it means that they're paying attention to the community, and we don't have to wait 2, 3, 4 weeks or half a season to mid-season before there's any sort of balance update. This is good. I really do think it's good for the game that they're doing this so quickly. Well, I'd like to know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. I'm all ears. So, as always, I like to say, happy gaming.